dinners in a row, it's a breakfast, it's a car ride, it's a lunch. It's being intentional with what God has entrusted you to educate yourself about what's under your nose. Do you see how the enemy, the devil, is all after us to distract us from what really matters? And that if we are leaving our kids to the wolves, where we're going to be in 5, 10, 15 years, this is the next generation, and we are literally like throwing them to the lions, and none of us are aware. Mm-hmm. It's just devastating. This is a devastating future if we do not take back the reins, take back what's educating our kids, turn off the news, unsubscribe. They live in your house. Yep. Unsubscribe to things that are poisoning their mind and teach them about what could poison their body and become that safe place for them. They don't need it anywhere else. Ugh, so annoyed. So, Michael, because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, well, my kids are grown adults now. Praise the Lord in heaven, because I don't even know what kind of psycho I'd be if they were like 8 right now. But, I'm clueless to what's happening. And I know the drug problem is bad, but can you tell me, people would say, oh, it's not just the open border. But how much is it hurting us? How much is it really hurting? Like, what has changed since Trump was in office in the last year?
Okay, well, everything's changed with fentanyl, and it's a paradigm shift, okay? So addiction has been around. We've had problems, but overdose death has been plummeting. I lost my best friend's daughter. I came home from prison in 2007, right? And I said, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to change the world. I was running the Scared Straight program in prison, and kids were coming into the prison, and you're screaming at them and threatening them. And I'm like, this doesn't work. This negative reinforcement doesn't work. They turned it into a reality TV show. It makes for great reality TV, but it's not reality. You can't scare kids. And then I grew up in the Just Say No era, where Ronnie and Nancy were sitting on the couch saying, Just say no. Just Say No worked for the kids who said no, but the problem was they didn't teach us what to say yes to. So Just Say No doesn't work if you don't give kids the alternative. For instance, I have kids come up to me and like, man, this is how I cope. And if I don't give them an alternative to cope, how am I going to take the vape away? If the kid's on pills or he's smoking weed, how am I going to get him to cope with his anxiety when how he's been coping with his anxiety is with a drug? And I take the drug away, I don't replace it with something. So you just can't say to your kids, just say no. I had a father come into a parent night the other night, and he had his kid with him, and he forced his kid to come. He was in another school district, where they didn't think they needed an education program for their school district. So the father saw it on Facebook and came to see us present and brought his kid. And he looked at me, and his kid's like half crying. He's like, I've grounded my son. I put him in his room. I've taken his Xbox away, his phone. If I could give him bread and water and a mattress, I would do it. And I looked at him, why? He's like, well, I've caught him with vapes 3 times. And I'm looking at the kid. I said to the father, sir, with all due respect, you're going to find a 4th one. You know that, right? No, I'm not. This is serious. You're going to find a 5th one. Keep taking them away, and you're going to keep finding. I looked at the kid. I go, are you addicted? Are you addicted? And the kid starts crying. He's bawling his eyes out. He's like 14, a tough little kid, right? And the father starts crying. I said, sir, your son's not defying you. He's addicted to nicotine. He's addicted. How the hell are you supposed to get your kid to stop something he can't stop? I mean, how many people in this country have quit smoking 10 times and they still smoke? Yeah. Nicotine is a poison on the brain. Poison. So you got people, it's the number 1 cause of death in the world, and people still smoke. Why? You seem like an intelligent person. You have college degrees. You're a professional, a lawyer, a doctor, whatever, and you smoke cigarettes. Why? Because they can't stop. They just can't stop. Obesity is the other thing in this country. Oh, my God, it's crazy. But here you have kids that are looking at this as coping mechanisms, and they can't stop. Pharmaceutical drugs, psych drugs, antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication on kids is a crisis. Alcohol use was plummeting, and then it started to escalate. But as soon as we legalized marijuana, 2013, Colorado and Washington, adolescent use of marijuana started to skyrocket. Tobacco cigarette use was plummeting, and in 2011, the tobacco industry introduced the electronic device, a Vibe, a Vuse, and then the Juul, and then they changed nicotine into assault, and now they've assaulted our kids. They're being lied to. And these kids don't think they're doing drugs.
Right.
In Phoenix, there's over 100 billboards in Phoenix, Metro Phoenix, advertising marijuana, celebrating the beautiful dispensaries where you could go in and get marijuana. First of all, it ain't even marijuana. That's a topic for another day. But there's no safety net for children. If you make it normal to do drugs as an adult, you are going to increase the amount of use among kids.
Yeah.
I love when people say, well, we got to decriminalize the drugs and legalize the drugs so we take the black market away. If you decriminalize an addictive substance, not only do you not take the black market away, you explode the black market.
Mm-hmm.
There is more black market marijuana than there's ever been in the history of the world because of legalization. Oregon has exploded with addiction. So I know that the only way we're going to prevent this is to prevent it from starting. I have to get to our kids.
Mm-hmm.
I have to tell our kids the truth. And so my story is horrendous. A life of addiction, but my addiction and my gang involvement, my criminal activity actually led to the death of my 63-year-old mother. My mother was murdered because of my gang involvement and my crime. And May 14th, 1995, she was 63 years old, my biggest cheerleader in the world. And they murdered her. They came to hit me and they killed her. May 14th, 1995 was Mother's Day morning. So my mother wasn't only murdered, she was murdered on Mother's Day morning.
Wow.
And so I went to prison for 5 years as a result of that case, and I came home, and an emergency room doctor handed me a bottle of 360 80-milligram OxyContin.
Oh, my gosh.
I was in a car accident with 3 cracked cervical vertebrae on my neck, and the emergency room doctor at St. Francis Hospital in Trenton, New Jersey, handed me a bottle of 360 80 oxys. And I went back to prison for 7 more years as a result of widespread doctor shopping and drug use. So when I got back to prison, I was like, man, I have to be the answer. I can no longer. I'm failing God. He gave me a second chance. I didn't know if God was going to give me a third chance. Well, God's given me 6,700 chances. But he said, this is it. He opened up the gates of hell for the last time, and he says, this is it. You know what I want you to do. And I said, yes, I absolutely, Father, know what you want me to do. You've given me a purpose. This is my purpose. Then he gave me, through the Holy Spirit, a passion for my purpose.
So good.
All I care about in this world is kids. God comes first. The redhead comes second. That's the woman I'm married to.
I was going to say, your wife better be a redhead.
Yeah, she is a redhead. And then the children of this country come next. And I'm going to spend every waking moment, every day, the rest of my life, educating kids and telling them the truth. Telling them the truth. Because, listen, if kids want to grow up to be a Democrat, fine. A Republican, fine. They want to go to vocational school. They want to be a lawyer. They want to be a teacher. They want to be a radio, a podcast. So they want to be a musician, a professional athlete, a plumber. Who cares? I just want them to grow up. I want them to grow up.
Yeah.
Now, personally, I want them to know the grace and mercy of God and the salvation of Jesus Christ. That's all that matters. But I need to get them the truth about the things that they're being assaulted with and killed with.
And deceived.
This administration, this border thing, it just breaks my heart. And people think it's an immigration issue. People think it's a humanitarian issue. It's not. It's a poisoning issue. China is importing more meth than they've ever imported, more fentanyl than they've ever imported in the history of our country, and they are annihilating our children. And, you know, a 7th grader, Hartford, Connecticut, overdoses at school. 3 other kids overdosed that day. That kid went to the hospital. 3 days later, he died. They went to his house to investigate, and they found 100 bags of fentanyl in this kid's bedroom.
What?
How does he's selling fentanyl
gosh.
bags to other middle school kids? Now there's an investigation of 15 middle school kids in Bridgeport, Hartford, Connecticut. And I can't find it on the news anywhere.
So these kids are going to be convicted, but the drug runners are running across the border with slaps on their wrists.
Yep.
Can I ask you, Michael, what you would do right now if you had a child addicted to any of these substances? What would be the first thing you would do?
absolute crisis. It's, you absolutely have to get professionals involved that understand what's happening. The adolescent brain is different than the adult brain. Prevention is the key. So parents everywhere, Table Talks and Dashboard Conversations is a fantastic tool. SteeredStraight.org. I have a plethora of information on there to help parents. Prevention is the key. But if you have a kid, a middle school kid, a high school kid who's addicted to nicotine, it is a very serious matter, because 91% of every addict in America began with nicotine, alcohol, and marijuana. So if your kid's smoking weed, it's not the weed Woodstock was used, and it's not the Cheech and Chong weed. This is different. And its inhalation method is different because it's going through an electronic device. So marijuana and THC, okay, which is the psychoactive molecule in the marijuana plant, and nicotine are two of the three gateway drugs for kids. You've got to do everything in your power to get your kids off of this substance, because that's how they're coping, that's how they're fitting in, that's how they're dealing with stress and anxiety. So you have to replace that with something else. And that something else is engagement and connection, connecting with the family. The number one reason kids who never did drugs say they never did drugs is because they didn't want to disappoint their parents. It's the number one reason, parents and guardians. So whether you're a one-parent family, a two-parent family, you're a foster parent, you're guardians, you're raising your nieces and nephews because your child's, gone, no matter who you're raising, connection. And that's one of the things that this government, these deep state people, that's one of the things they did, shutting these schools. They don't want these kids connected. Sit at home and watch Netflix and veg out. And when you're climbing the wall, your parents will put you on a psych drug and keep you quiet. And then we're going to mask you up when we bring you back to school. Yep. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. And how this country systemically is allowing this to happen. So, I thank God for girls like you. I'm telling you, voices like you, because you're unafraid, you're unabashed, and you're telling the truth. You're telling the truth. You're saving lives. I was joking earlier, she's so right. No, you're right. You are right, and you have to share this. So I'm totally unafraid. I got so many haters, man. The marijuana industry hates my guts. The pharmaceutical industry hates my guts.
If evil hates you, good.
Yeah. Yep. I say if they ain't talking about you, you're not doing anything
That's
anyway.
Right. That's right.
But I serve a mighty God, a mighty God who's given me a purpose. And all I want is at the end of time being in front of him and he says to me, well done. It's all I care about. I did so much harm, and my mother was murdered because of me. My wife was pistol whipped because of me. My daughter had a gun held to her head because of drugs. I destroyed people's lives. I was a pariah of society, and God said, this is your last chance. And I looked to him, I said, I'll never fail you. I'll never fail you again. You give me the platform, you give me the ability to hit these kids, I will hit them with the truth, and I'll never stop. I'll never stop.
Your quote at the end of your email is, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. If you guys want to get in touch with Michael Deleon, go to SteeredStraight.org. and reach out to him. If you guys want to give him a platform to spread this amazing, incredible, necessary message, please reach out to She's So Right Show. We would love to.
It's our privilege to have you today, Michael. Thank you for everything you're doing. God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
It's Dylan's KC Barbecue at 4 Valley locations. Our sports bar in Arrowhead is packed with TVs for the ultimate sports fan. Our Wildlife World Zoo location will have you on the edge of your seat, dining right next to our 60,000-gallon shark tank. Dylan's Bayou at Pleasant Harbor has never-ending sunsets, beautiful people, and live music every weekend. And our newest location, Western Trails Ranch, is 12 acres of rodeo fun and live outdoor concerts for the entire family. It's Dylan's KC Barbecue, where we're elite, unique, and memorable.